Coming to you from sunny California and the Great White North. Get ready. We are breaking down the obstacles on the Armchair Ninja Podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Armchair Ninja Podcast. It is Saturday, October 13th, 2018. My name is Rich, and joining me to cover Ultimate Beastmaster Season 3 is Bijan. How you making out?
Meh. I'm all right. You ever like nothing against Ultimate Beastmaster, but I gotta tell you, bro. Like, Rich, have you ever been in that situation where like you think you're good in terms of like a deadline or something, right? And then you check back and it's like due like really soon, and you're like, oh crap, and you're like freaking out.
Are you kidding me? Is this intentional? Because I am absolutely failing every deadline I have. It is absolutely driving me crazy. I've been doing nothing but complaining about it. So
oh man, well,
don't even get me started, man. But what's going on with you?
It seems like it's happening to both of us, bro. Like it's Tough Mudder, man. I thought it was at the end of November, but I got it mixed up with another obstacle course race that I'm doing, which is a little bit easier. It's called Ring Maniac. It's really easy, but Tough Mudder is kind of like not easy. And dude, it's at the beginning of November. So now I have like 3 weeks to train, if even that, like 2 weeks and a half. So all of a sudden I have to go like hardcore, straight, like good diet. I'm doing 5 days gym. I'm doing rock climbing. I started rock climbing again, by the way. Really fun. Love that. But dude, it's been brutal. Like I'm doing power green salad for lunch, which is just arugula, spinach and kale, raw. And if you guys know what that's like, it is not pleasant. It's like bleh. But hey, gotta do it, man. Gotta shed this weight, gotta get strong, gotta get good. 3 weeks suffering and I'll be in shape and ready to go. What's going on over there, Rich? How you doing?
I discovered today that Tim Hortons has come out with a breakfast sandwich with sausage, and they put it in between two Belgian waffles, and I absolutely loved it. It is the most delicious thing I've ever eaten.
That sounds amazing. Must be nice, bro. Must be nice.
I've been doing pretty good for my diet for the most part. Salads, and straight just chicken breast last night, did pretty good overall. But I saw that today. That was it. I cashed it in. That was I had to get one.
Hey, we all have a cheat day, man.
But yeah, climbing's been going good for me. So getting some new milestones, trying to make sure that I can consistently do the beginner level ones, right? So the ones that they do for the competitions. I guess if there's 5 levels at the gym, these are level 2.
Hey, that's more than me, man. I just started, and boy, I am out of shape when it comes to rock climbing. I am like, oh man, this is harder than I remember. But I'll get there.
It's not just, speaking as a total novice here still, but technique is everything. Like when you get some tips and somebody shows you, hey, if you just adjust your weight this way, hey, if you put your foot here, like everything changes. Suddenly everything's way easier. So don't forget technique when you're doing it.
Oh yeah, man. It's just one of those things where you first day back, you're trying to do like the V3s, which if it if there's 5 levels, this is like the middle tier level. And I used to be able to do those. Keyword there is used to. I'll build back up to it, but not right now.
Cool. So Ultimate Beastmaster. Before we get into all the nitty-gritty details, overall, what'd you think of the first episode?
Man, it was good, but boy, we have a lot to talk about. I mean, everybody, if you watch Ultimate Beastmaster Season 3, like, you guys are probably aware at this point, there is a lot different. Like, they changed everything up. So, it's kind of like a new show to me, and I could definitely tell they're going a different route with their approach to it. In many ways, like, I really had to sit on this because I very much had mixed feelings on all the changes. But I just kind of feel like they're just going away from the American Ninja Warrior approach of Season 2. If you guys remember Ultimate Beastmaster Season 2, they went in the deep end of really, really, really hard obstacles, and which is similar to ANW, right? This season, it's kind of like, I wouldn't say the opposite. I wouldn't say that's easier, but they've definitely nerfed a lot of the stages. And it's a different approach where it seems more like a competition of a lot of very high-level competitors. And also, I feel like they focus the episodes a lot more. They basically have half the competitors as before, and I feel like that makes it a little bit more focused in terms of storylines. But, man, I could see people loving it and hating it. How do you feel, Rich?
I am on the fence. I don't know. I'm not crazy with some of the changes. I don't like we got to get into the details because there's things that I liked, things I didn't. The hosts, I guess, was one of the first changes.
Dude, the hosts are important. I mean, this show is all about the hosts, or at least for me, and y'all know how I feel about them hosts.
Yeah, the hosts make the show, or I did in season 1 and 2. We have CM Punk standing in for Chris. I think the guy's name was the comedian guy.
Chris DeGangi, I think was his name.
It wasn't DeGangi, no. You finally remember his name.
That was a joke. But anyway.
Tiki Barber's back, but CM Punk is in, and I don't know. It'll take a while to warm up to him, I think.
Yeah, so here's the thing. The other guy, I forget his name, but it was Chris something. That guy was, in my opinion, the really, really good host. He was very funny, charismatic, very into it, like goofy and everything. Tiki Barber was very much the straight man. And I wouldn't say boring, but he was kind of there, where a lot of my favorite hosts are like at a 10. And this guy is very much a 5. He's just there. And I don't know, he's there again. I feel like he's amped it up a little bit in terms of being a little bit more outgoing or funnier, but he's still not there for me. CM Punk, I mean, I'm a big wrestling fan. This guy very much is very good at throwing shade and being witty, but it's a low-key witty. It's not goofy craziness. It's one of those things where we have to wait and see with CM Punk, because when the guy is on, he's on really hardcore. But if he's tuned out to it and doesn't care about the show, he's not going to give you good TV. That said, from what I saw in this episode, I feel like he's getting the hang of it, and I think he's actually going to be really fun. That said, I mean, we've got also Stu Bennett, or Stu something, the guy from, what do you call it? England, or whatever it is, Britain. And that guy was actually also a WWE wrestler called Wade Barrett. So we've got like 2 wrestlers, and then we got Anderson Silva over there. So a lot going on. CM Punk's was both a wrestler and an MMA fighter. So you got a lot of overlap with all these people. But I have to say they're good. They're good dudes in terms of that front.
Yeah, I mean, some of our favorite hosts return too, right? South Korea's back. We have the France and Italy rivalry. Your husband, your Italian husband.
Okay, so first, ding. Second of all, yes! 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 Oh, yes! Dude! Team South Korea is back. I am an open heart human being. I love everybody. But this woman is the love of my life. The woman, the host from South Korea. And then, they bring them back. Team Italy. My future husband, my other love of my life. The hosts from Italy. I don't know their names, but I love them all the same. They're both amazing. I can't wait to see them interact with each other. This is the best. I cannot wait for this season, bro. Like, it is going to be so fun. I feel like the hosts this season are going even more on the goofy end. Like, just go crazy with it. We've got, like, the team from, I believe it was Mexico, jumping in the water, like, at a certain point and, like, doing all this crazy stuff. I think it is so fun. I love all the dynamics and the playbacks with each other. I am in love. Just, I'm like Oprah. You get a kiss. You get a kiss. You get a kiss. I'm going to kiss all of them.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. I felt like it took a little bit to hit their stride. I don't know. I feel like it'll get better as it goes.
Well, that's the thing. Also, now I think about it, like, was this the first episode while filming or not? I
have no idea. We're going to say it was, sure. Yeah, I'm going to assume that there's a little bit of awkwardness just because they're ramping up again. I'm not sure, but...
Yeah.
Yeah, so we got Germany.
Wait, sorry, but like you're just, I don't want to railroad you, man. How are you feeling about the hosts?
Hosts are good. I mean, a lot of our favorites returned. I felt like they were a little off this episode in particular, I guess. I felt like I might need to warm up to them, or they may need to warm up a bit themselves. They were way over the top. Like it felt a little forced, I guess. They were so like immediately going into everyone else's booths, like the way they did before. Yeah, it felt a little more natural before. I'm hoping it gets there again.
I love it, but yeah, it was a little, I guess, hammed up. But I feel like what we saw in the previous seasons was it's a season long storylines between the hosts, and you just can't go into it immediate. You have to warm up to it. So I feel like by season or episode 3, we're gonna get them seeing a lot of their stride and the personalities and the dynamics with each other.
Yeah, I felt like the Italy-France one hit its stride immediately, right? That's still a good, strong rivalry between them.
Love it.
So the teams are back, and the total teams here, we've got 9. Germany, Mexico, South Korea, Brazil, USA, Great Britain, Australia, Italy, and France. And for those that aren't familiar, I realize we're kind of jumping in as if everybody listened to us before or have watched it before. Every country has 2 hosts, and they will show a version of the show kind of centered around them and their language in each of the countries around the world on their Netflix. So it's pretty great, right? Like if you're a Spanish speaker or French speaker, you can get a full version of the show, but they all interact. All the hosts kind of interact with each other and make it fun for everyone.
Yeah, very smart.
This time around, this season, we have 9 competitors per episode, 1 from each country.
So this is different from previous seasons where we had 2 competitors.
Yep.
Rich, how do you feel about that?
I like it, but I feel like we are going to see a lot less women run this season.
I agree, and that does suck. We'll just have to see how that works, in terms of like the women play. When there was that female competitor on this episode, I was super happy. I feel like this course lends itself for the women to do better, and we'll get into that. But one obstacle that I really had a big problem with in previous seasons, it's not necessarily there anymore, and it was kind of the one that took out all the women. So there's a chance more for women to excel. I'd say in this season.
Yeah. So of those 9 competitors, 2 will go on to the semifinals. So we don't have the big climb up. We don't have a Beastmaster in each episode like we had last year, which is a little weird.
Yeah, that I can go either way. It's a little tricky, but I do like the tournament format. This does lend itself to have more people in the finals, which is nice.
Yeah, and I think they were looking to have more countries involved in moving on into later rounds, because we really had it dominated in previous seasons.
That's a very good point. That could very much be it. Now, I didn't think about that, but yeah, looking at previous seasons, it was like pretty heavy in certain teams. And like there would be like, what was it, the first season? I don't even think Japan had a team in the finale or whatever. Like there was always like one country with nothing to show for itself, and that was just not fun to see.
But it's a little weird too, because right off the bat, when you go through level 1, the top 6 move on. This means 3 teams are eliminated right away. Like every episode, they're going to be knocked out right off the bat.
Yeah, but I mean, that was the same way it was in previous seasons, right? Like each stage would slowly eliminate other competitors and whittle it down, which I've really found enjoyable and entertaining. There was stakes to every stage, and that was important. Do you want to get into my biggest gripe of the entire format and everything?
Yeah, let's do it. What do you got?
I don't want to be negative Nancy, but for me, the big thing that I was really disappointed to see is every single stage they wiped the slate clean, where all the points are eliminated. And I found one of the strongest aspects of this show in previous seasons was the fact that all of the points that you get are cumulative, which means, if you do well in stage 1 and you do well in stage 2, that matters. That way you can like not do well as well in stage 3, and it's still a stakes to everything that you've done beforehand. The fact that they wipe it clean, I mean, it didn't happen this episode, but what if that, I mean, I don't want to, who cares? If you watch it, you watch it. But Pukey Dude, he completes both stage 1 and 2. And then if he were to fail stage 3, he gets nothing. I mean, that's just, I don't know. I don't like that. But, I understand from a television aspect, and at the end of the day, this is more, for entertainment value. It does lend itself to give competitors, I guess, how would I say this, other than, in last season, there were people where it was very clear by stage 3 they were going to move on, and you don't necessarily have that anymore, where everybody, can move on when getting to stage 3.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. I don't like that rule change at all. I was really disappointed to see that. I felt like it's one of the strongest differentiators for the show, right? Because of that accumulation, you could build up a sizable lead, right? It gave you a little bit of a buffer. It gave a reason to go further and do better. Like it was just weird. Like I don't like it. I don't like it. I feel like they really stripped out one of the better aspects of the show.
Yeah, because honestly, if you're like one of the later runners, right? And you get past a certain point where, you're moving on, why would you burn yourself out by completing the stage? There's no reason to.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to see that.
We don't want to see anyone jumping off the middle of the course because there's no reason to keep going. It doesn't make sense.
And unfortunately, I have a feeling that's going to happen quite a bit this season. I would.
Yeah. Any smart people will be doing that for sure. On a plus side, on one of the positives, the mega thrusters. I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, it adds it makes you really work for it. Why don't you explain what the mega thrusters are?
Right. So on the course, just like in previous seasons, there are point thrusters. So if you go a little bit out of your way, reach in a spot that maybe not the most comfortable place to be reaching, you can get bonus points as you progress. But they also have now these mega thrusters, which are a timed point thruster. So the sooner you can get to it, the more points you get. So there's an incentive for you to go a little bit faster to reach those. And it's a great bonus. It's really a smart way to make people progress a little bit faster and potentially cause slip-ups as they're trying to do it.
Yeah, and it makes a huge difference in terms of points also. So I don't necessarily know where it counts down from. We'll say 30. I could be completely wrong. But as soon as you get on an obstacle, it's probably like halfway to the end of the obstacle, and you really have to work for it. But, it'll be counting down. And by the time you get there, you hit the thing, and, it can be anywhere from like 30 points to 5 points. But it makes a huge difference. So if a bunch of competitors complete the course, or the stage or whatever, and that will make the big difference, right? Is how fast can you get to that? So it makes a huge difference, and I enjoy that. Also, one thing that I really, really enjoyed was they switched up a lot of things on the stages. I feel like they really, really nerfed, in particular, stage 2. But I always welcome change, and I always, find... I really enjoy them switching things up. And I don't know if you've caught this, Rich, but at the end of the episode, they said there'll be more new episodes. So I don't know if they switch things up every episode or not. Maybe it's like Ninja versus Ninja, where every episode there's like a few obstacles that are changed up. But either way, big fan of that. I like, complexity and differences.
Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't quite sure I followed that. We'll find out when we move on to the second episode. But it did sound like things were going to be switching out here and there along the way. So let's take a look at the actual course. Level 1. Everything had a similar feel, right? And it had some things that did return. The lockjaw at the beginning, just basically like almost a non-obstacle. Gearhead was a switch. This is like a big swinging gear that they had to jump from over to the other platform. It only really tripped up one competitor, but I liked it. I thought it was a decent obstacle.
Yeah, I like how it has complexity. The previous version, it was a glorified how far can you jump again, and I just always hate that. With this one, it kind of swings. You have to work with your timing and balance and a few other variables.
Yep. Face Plan is back, but now they have to jump a little off to the side to grab the chain, which was good. It was a decent obstacle to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Hyper jump replaced is probably one of the biggest changes we saw, really, because the energy coils, I think they're called before,
something like that, shock coils or whatever.
Yeah.
So that was the obstacle I had one of the biggest gripes for, because once again, I do not like obstacles where it's literally how far can you jump. In particular, I hated it because that was usually the breaking point for a lot of the female competitors. And with this new obstacle, basically they're like the energy coils. It's just two of them where it's like platforms that are hanging, but the first one goes up and down, and you can literally jump with it above the other one. So it's not necessarily about how far can you jump, but it's how well can you aim your jump. And also there's a point thruster in the middle of it. So do you go for the point thruster hitting it in the like while you're transitioning to the other one? I find this much better.
Yeah, because in addition, the point thrusters last seasons were on this jump that was really far, right? So again, really rewarding the longer competitors, right? So yeah, the hyper jump's a little bit of improvement. I was very disappointed that it was only 2 though. I thought that was too short, really.
Yeah, they could have went with more, but it's whatever.
I think even one more would have made a big difference. But after that, we had the rack. That was a weird, like, combination of so many obstacles we've seen before. It's kind of like the tilting ladders, but not. They've got a lache from one swinging bar on one end of this contraption to the other. But as soon as they release from the first one, the second one drops. Like, as soon as I saw that, I thought, that looks dangerous. Like, someone's going to hit that wrong. And even in this episode, we had that happen.
It's dangerous, but I don't know. I mean, I've seen worse on ANW and stuff, right? If anything, this just reminds me of something you'd see on a Spartan race or something like that, you know? It does have laches. It does involve, like, I would say it involves some segment of technique and athleticism, but I don't necessarily think this is one of the hardest obstacles there are.
You don't think? To me, the problem isn't so much that it's not the distance they have to lache. It's it's the fact that they can't really judge the movement until they release from the first jump. Right? They've got to jump from the back of it to the front, and once they release, it's going to drop. So then they have to readjust on the fly to catch the other side. That seems like a lot to ask.
There is a lot of complexity, and I did see, like, one of the bars when swinging from it, it's like, I don't even know how to describe it, but it's like free swinging, kind of like its own little trapeze bar before you go. I don't know, it's cool, but it's one of those obstacles I feel like I'd have to be there in person to really get a feel for what it's like.
All right, and after the rack, we had the mag wall, which it's a climbing wall with holds that fall off of it as you're going, basically.
I have never seen anybody fall from those, so I'm just gonna say, until I see it, like, until I see it, those things only fall when you're completely off of them.
I thought the first guy did, actually.
I don't think they fell while he was on it, man.
It was awful close. If it wasn't, he had one hand on the one that came off. I'm almost positive. USA guy, I think.
Well, the first guy was the South Korea guy. Am I him or USA?
Yeah, the first guy fell. Yeah, the South Korea guy fell on the rack, though. So James Drake from the USA was the first guy to fall on the wall, and I'm pretty sure it was him.
Let's take a look. Watching it right now. You don't need to put this on the podcast, I'm just saying.
We're going to put this on. Listen along as we check the episode.
Back. I think he falls and then it falls. I don't think it's with it, but let me... Oh, snap, you're right. No, it did fall. Okay, it happens.
It's possible. Yeah, so James Drake did fall on the mag wall, but he did pretty well. He did move on.
That's the American guy.
The American guy, yeah. So we'll try to keep it American focused, right? There's no Canadian team, so I guess that's where we're at.
I don't know. I don't necessarily root for the American ever in these or on these episodes. That's one cool thing I like about it. It doesn't have to be, is it xenophobic? Whatever the term is, it doesn't necessarily have to be about your country. Or at least that's my approach.
It is true. Yeah, I found that with the previous seasons too. And even in this episode, like, I was totally on board with Max Springer right from the beginning, right? The guy from Germany that made it to the end. Actually, Max and James were the two finishers to jump right to the end of the whole episode.
Spoiler alert. But yeah.
All right, so we mentioned the American competitor, and I think we briefly touched on Max Springer too from Germany, who was fantastic in this episode. Who else stood out to you, I guess, in the beginning round? We had all 9 countries go. Is there any stories that jumped out to you or any other competitors?
Well, the female competitor, I forget her name, but she was from
Australia. That was
Australia.
Morgan Rose Moroney.
Yeah, so she really impressed me. Like they had a story about her, and she was very impressive on it. And I really wanted, like, I was like, okay, here we go. This course seems a lot more made for a female competitor to do well, and I was very excited to see her on the course. I forget how she fell, but she fell due to something, and I was just so sad. But that said, I have a feeling we're going to see a female competitor get to the semifinals. I don't think there's a single stage on this course which that says like, oh, like it's not beatable for a woman. I like if Megan Martin were on this show, 100% she's making it to the finals in my opinion. Like stage 3 in particular, very grip strength heavy, very favorable to somebody that can hold themselves up for a long time. And a lot of female competitors can do that. So I'm actually very high up on some of the changes in terms of making it approachable for women.
Interesting. And you know what? Looking ahead, I just realized level 2 is really leg heavy. Like really not an upper body test at all.
Good point. Maybe that's what they're going for, man. Like, I'm curious what they, in ANW, they kind of have like themes to it. It's not as much like recently, but usually there's themes. I wonder what the themes are in terms of like athleticism for this show. Obviously, stage 3 is very upper body, and stage 2, as you said, is very lower body. Probably stage 1's just a mix. But that's a very good point. Anything else saying anything singing out to you, man?
Just I found it really strange isn't the right word, but interesting that there was no such thing as a fast forward in this episode. We saw every single competitor and every single run, which I can't think of a single show that's ever been able to do that.
Yeah, when you have 9 competitors, you can make it more focused. You can give a little bit more time, breathing room in terms of stories and everything like that. And one thing also is, since it's a lot less people, I have a feeling they really were able to grind out the people that are just like, hey, I'm a competitor, and the people that really have unique stories to be told. So I have a feeling we're going to get some really good stories from all these competitors throughout the season. I could be wrong, but so far so good.
Yeah, I enjoyed several of the competitors. I don't think we're going to get into nitty gritty too much.
I don't need that.
Yeah. One thing of note, I guess, the South Korean competitor, Sung Hyuk Choi, was a pole dancer, which you do not typically see male pole dancers.
Hey, man. Rap it, man. Like, quality, all that.
It was it was a little jarring at first in the level 1, but when they went to level 2 and you get the longer segment and they showed him doing it, it's like, hey, good for you, man. That does look pretty cool.
Yeah, that's dope. But stage 2, thoughts?
Stage 2, immediate rage when they went to 0 score, and then the beginning is one of the craziest beginnings I've ever seen. I gotta say that they've got to jump to this trampoline and hit the logo to bounce up to this other spot. But it's at like an angle, like it's the craziest trampoline jump I think I've seen.
Yeah, so it's basically a trampoline at the angle of the quad steps. Very, very angled, right? And it's basically, the best way to describe it, Rich, is like 2 quad steps. But the first step, rather than jumping to a platform, it's this giant trampoline type thing. And the second one is a platform that you got to land towards. That said, it's a big netted trampoline. Or I wouldn't say netted, but a big trampoline where it has a lot of give. Those types of trampolines, and if you've ever been to a trampoline park, you know what I'm talking about. Those things, like, I don't think any competitors had trouble this episode, but those things you can really get slipped up on. Like, we've all seen the videos of somebody trying a trampoline, one of those big ones, and they like instantly like fall back and they're kicking the back of their heads or whatever. Yeah. I can actually see some competitors failing at this, and I feel like when they do fail at this obstacle, it's going to be an epic fail. So yeah. I'm actually excited for that. Hopefully nobody seriously hurts themselves, but it's probably a lot harder than it looks. If you know how to use a trampoline, you should be fine. But if you're new to that, man, I can see some people failing epically.
As soon as saw it, I thought, well, that's going to take out half of them. But no, everybody actually was able to do it.
Hmm.
They called the next thing pivot point, and it's just a jump. But once they actually zoomed out and showed it from a good angle, you realize that's a long jump and a very high drop, which everyone was able to do. But it wasn't as simple as I first took it to be.
Yeah, basically it's a big drop, as you said, onto a little tiny floating pad. It actually looked way more difficult than, I wouldn't say it is, but then the competitors made it to be. It could be just a situation, kind of like last season, where the first episode we just have ultra athletes just destroying the course, right? It could be that. I just don't know. Time will tell if it becomes a non-factor or not.
Digestive track is back. I think that was a good choice because that really provided a lot of entertainment in the previous seasons. Basically, imagine a children's tube slide that you've got to run up before it sinks into the water, which is a little scary to watch. And they had to jump from there to the treadmills, which are a little different this time around. It almost seems like they're further away, if that was even possible. And they're offset, so you can't run from one over to the other quite as easily as they were able to in previous seasons by the looks of it.
Yeah, I don't know. They're off to the side, but the way the competitors completed it, it's, how would I say this? It made it a lot slower of an obstacle. And these shows, you want people to keep moving, keep moving. Basically, everybody struggled on each part of it, just hanging on to the end of it. And I don't know, it kind of just killed the momentum of each run, because the competitors were just hanging on for their dear life and then kind of like shimming onto the platform and then starting a running point onto it. It's not the fault, like you couldn't prepare unless, I don't know, maybe a lot of testers, did it differently, but it kind of broke the momentum of each run.
Yep, I wasn't really a fan. It was kind of ugly completions. They weren't fun to watch. It was just stressful, and it just didn't look right. It didn't look like things were being completed cleanly, which doesn't make it feel like a good run. Shapeshifter, this weird body prop-ish kind of climbing holds and handholds. I don't even know what to describe that thing as.
It's really cool. I recommend everybody that's a fan of ANW and Sasuke and everything to actually check out this obstacle. This was a big win for me. I really like it. It's very unique, and it involves a different techniques. Like every single part of it, you have to use a different part of your body holding yourself up. It gets progressively more difficult with different pads, like all in different angles. And you basically are doing almost like, what's that game, Rich, where there's like a bunch of dots on the ground and you gotta like
Twister.
always yeah, it's kind of like Twister but in the air, like a body prop form of it. It's actually pretty neat. I really like that obstacle.
Yeah, that might have been my favorite of the episode. Possibly beaten by Tail Whip, which is basically a bunch of monkey bars that just fall off behind them as they go at a very rapid pace. I thought that was one of the craziest looking, funnest obstacles. For something that's relatively simple looking, it's a little jarring to have those bars dropping behind them as they go.
Yeah, it's pretty dope. Similar to the climbing hold thing that I was dropping, I just went in figuring that they would always wait till the competitor was off of it. But now that I know that thing, like the hold actually fell, like, hey, maybe that'll make for some really interesting television, because those things went at a rapid pace of falling. You had to move. So
Yeah.
so that's pretty dope, man. If they keep true to it, like I could see some epic fails. You gotta hustle on that part. And it's the end of the stage, so you could be really tired and worn out. That said, overall, I felt like the obstacles from previous seasons were a lot harder and more fun to watch than some of these new obstacles, in particular the first two. I really liked the rising platforms from the previous seasons. I forget the names of it. And I really like the little spinning pads from previous seasons. Like basically it was a bunch of different pads of different sizes that would spin at different rates and intervals, and you'd have to jump from one platform to the other. It made for the stage to be slower, so I understand why they got rid of it. They probably want people to hustle and move, right? But I don't know. The obstacles that they replace them with, I feel, are a lot easier. Could be wrong. I mean, maybe these competitors are just ultra athletes, and later episodes people struggle on it more. But at this point, Stage 2 was really who can get through those. Oh my god, I forgot the names of them, man. The treadmill obstacle. What the heck is that called?
The Dreadmills.
The Dreadmills. Basically, it was kind of like who can complete the Dreadmills. That was it. And I don't know. I just never like it when it comes down to like one obstacle the whole time.
Pretty much, yeah.
I hate that I'm being so negative because I really like the show. It sounds like I'm complaining a whole lot. At the end of the day, the storylines and in particular the hosts and everything like that really makes the show unique. But in terms of the competitive element of the show, I feel like they've really, really nerfed it. But still, I enjoyed this.
I enjoyed it. We'll give our final thoughts as we wrap it up here. Let's take a look at anything else to add from level 2. Anything that stood out?
Not really. Just I felt like it was nerfed, which the fact that it always came down to the same obstacle kind of killed the I don't know, the fun of it, and that same obstacle every single time the people would just hang on to it, which killed the momentum of it. So I understand why they got rid of the first obstacles to make the flow better, but everybody's hitting this brick wall and just killing the flow. So I feel like for next season, they really need to do something with the Dreadmills.
What did you think of the host passing along the giant beer?
Loved it. Dude, do more stuff like that. Hilarious. I love it. It's funny. It's fun. I love, the hosts like interacting with each other. Some are like, I don't drink. Some are like, hey, give me that. It was cool. And I really like Team Italy, like, threatening to like jump in the water, and everybody's like, no, don't do that. You're going to hurt yourself. But like, just they are the show. They make it fun.
Yeah, I thought they were pretty strong in level 2 for sure. Like I thought they kept it moving along pretty well.
Hey, somebody needed to, because
yeah. Looking at level 3, so 4 people moved on from there. 4 teams moved on. USA was still in it. South Korea, Mexico, and Germany at that point.
Go Team South Korea, man. Like they'd be so funny because like this guy was struggling. The South Korean competitor, the pole dancer, was kind of struggling through the whole thing. But every time they'd be freaking out, they love it. As soon as he completes, moves on, they like go down like, hey, let's go down and get away from everybody. And then they like laugh maniacally, and like just right. All this really cool stuff that I love. Like they bring so much fun to the show. And other people honestly take note. You don't have to speak English to make like it really fun.
So with level 3 then, we had a very similar obstacle lineup that we've had in the past with the conveyor belt launching them from the beginning.
But this part, they don't jump to it. And I could see a lot of people being upset about that because that was like a big, difficult portion of previous seasons. But it took out so many people in such a, I don't know, ho-hum way. I'm cool with it. But Rich, like initially for that part, like did you like it, the change, or did you want it to still have a jump?
I didn't mind the jump not being there. I was a little iffy on the whole that conveyor thing anyway, but no, it was fine. Without the jump, it was still fine because there was still the difficulty of the power surge, I guess it was called. It was basically like a rope swing, but you had to try to get up high if you wanted to reach the point thrusters. We saw one person just absolutely nail the point thrusters and totally screw up the transition at the end of it, which really sucked for them.
Yeah, so basically, you go from a treadmill that's going at 6 miles an hour, I believe they said, which is pretty fast. It's like a jogging pace on a treadmill. If you just hop onto it, I mean, I can imagine a lot of people falling on that thing because that's pretty fast. But basically, you're going, from that onto to a rope, as you said, Rich. But the difference is that you don't necessarily have time to just like climb up that rope or jump really high. Like you just have to get on that thing. And then you have to adjust while swinging on this really fast sliding rail to hit a point thruster. And the only way to really do that is to be high up on the rope. So it does add a little bit of elements of while you're swinging very quickly, you have to still do stuff.
From there, they went into, and I can't remember what this particular one was called, but they had all these long pipes that they had to go through to try to make it to this new obstacle, the Viper climb, I believe they called it. This thing was kind of cool. It was a weird, like, spirally ledge they had to kind of climb their way up. That was a interesting, very visually dynamic. I don't know how it's going to play out this season, but I liked it.
Yeah, it's really cool. So, just initially, when you get off the ropes, one cool thing is that there are hanging. It's very similar to the chain hang, I think it's called, or something like that from Sasuke from previous seasons. But basically, it's just a bunch of hanging things. But rather than chains, they're like actually like almost like 4x4s, but sleeked, which are very, very, very difficult to hold on to. These guys probably made it a lot easier than it is, but that can really like drain out your grip. So in this stage, really, you're free hanging for a very long time on a lot of things that are very uniquely difficult to hold your body weight up on. And you go on to, like, you know, as you said, like a bunch of things that were before, but then you move on to this giant spiral. And I believe they said it's 80 feet long. That doesn't sound right. That's extremely high. It's something like that. It's long, but it's probably not 80 feet. But anyways, it spirals in different ways, but then it has a very steep ascension at the end. And you just have to hold on to it by, how do I even say this? Like basically hanging from a ledge, right, Rich? And
Yeah, I don't know.
Like when you do that, basically you're holding yourself up with basically your forearms, with all that strength, and that's going to drain you out very quickly. Doing a dead hang from your forearms like that, I mean, that's gonna be tough, especially if you're a more muscular competitor. So, you know, doing this long transition during an ascension, not nonetheless, while hanging like that, that's gonna drain everything out of you. And we didn't get to see past it, but it seems like they have similar obstacles from last season, which are very difficult. I don't know how to describe them, but you guys will see them later. If we'll probably describe them next episode. But overall, I really like what they're doing here in terms of just making the forearms and the grip strength really a major factor in stage 3. I feel like last season was a lot more difficult, but this is one where I actually welcome it because stage 3 last season was a little too difficult, and we saw the same competitors feeling at the same stuff all the time. And I really, really hated last season, where after the little sliding part, they basically are in no man's land if they don't do a transition immediately. I'm glad that the competitors have more of a chance to get further in. This is one where it's a big welcome. I like seeing competitors complete more stages, more obstacles, and show their merits more.
Yep, all well said.
Hey, one thing that I just noticed though, remember like previous seasons, especially season 1, they had like optional paths and stuff like that. They kind of got rid of that here. You welcome that, or you're like, hey, that really wasn't a thing anyways? Like, how do you?
No one really used it. I hadn't noticed it until you just said it.
Yeah, I totally remember now.
I miss it a little bit now that you say it. Like it was a good thing to have in there, but it really wasn't something people took advantage of. So I guess I can see removing it.
Yeah, I think the point thrusters very much took over from that, you know, where those can make the big difference now. I loved the idea of having optional paths, but not enough people took them. Like everybody was just doing the same thing, so it really didn't become a factor. So I understand them transitioning out of it because, you know, if you just see writing on the wall, everybody's going to take the harder path for more points. What can you do?
Yeah, one complaint I have here. So with level 3. The top 2 of the 4 move on, which was James Drake from USA and Max Springer from Germany, who did fantastic through the whole episode. Very, very strong athlete. But I felt like the ending was so flat, right? And they tried to make it exciting. I mean, the host from Germany, she stripped down and jumped into the water, and the whole team ends up jumping in the water.
It's Germany that did it.
Yeah, it's like they did whatever they could, but at the same time, it's like there's 2 people moving on to the semifinals. It just doesn't have the feel of like a big victory like we had last season, where there's one person that was the Beastmaster moving on.
Yeah, it was anticlimactic, and I agree. Previous seasons, we had this huge race at the end of each episode where they'd go up this mountainous stage 4, which is always, in my opinion, the best stage 4 in all competition shows. Sorry, haters gonna hate, but that is the 100% truth. I mean, that thing was awesome. Different like elements, And it was really fun to see the two competitors racing against each other during that portion. And it usually ended with somebody at the very top, and they'd have this giant over the top, celebration. The visual element, they'd zoom out. It's like a pyramid lighting up and stuff. It was really cool. You don't have that anymore. You will probably have it in the semifinals and everything, but that just means we're gonna get however many episodes of kind of, as you said, Rich, like just an anticlimactic thing where it's like nobody necessarily won, but we saw like two people move on. For me, I have to hold back my overall thoughts on that until the end of the season to see how it plays out. But in terms of just visually, like watching episode per episode, it's kind of hard to get like, yay, I'm so excited for this person, because it's really two people moving on, and it's stage 3 rather than stage 4.
I guess we consume this differently than most people too, right? We do it 1 or 2 episodes a week, which people do not watch Netflix series that way. So
yeah, they binge.
If you're binge watching this, I can see this making a lot of sense, right? So you'll plow through the first few episodes before too long, and you'll be into the nitty gritty, and it won't feel as repetitive because you'll have some new things coming through the semifinals. So I think it could just be a factor in the way that we're going to watch this series.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And it's a very fair point to say, this wasn't necessarily made for the way that we're watching it. It is made for somebody that's not going to watch it necessarily week by week, but somebody that's going to watch it within 1 or 2 days. And in that sense, it's cool. If you're, how do I put this? Basically, it's all one giant competition. It just spread up through multiple episodes, but really you can consider this just an 8-hour special. So in that case, it's fair.
All right. So final thoughts on the episode and on the new changes.
Go hosts. I love it. I love the fact that we have a lot of interplay with the hosts, and I really like how they have 9 competitors. Actually, I'm gonna say I'm plus on this, that they have 9 competitors, but they get, I guess, more focused on it. Like we get a much better, deeper story on them. I kind of feel like sometimes, A&W is its thing, and I like the fact that we have so many competitors. But on this show, the way it was shown, I didn't like when they'd have like, there's 18 competitors and you're only going to hear about 6 of them, and the other ones are kind of just thrown out there in the beginning. Because it's like stage 1, I'd be like, I don't know these people. Now you really get to know all of them, which is cool. And I do enjoy a lot of the newer obstacles. That said, there's growing pains when you change up the format so much. And I feel like if they're going to stick to this format, season 4, they're going to have to modify some things.
Yeah. I will go so far as to say I was a little disappointed in the episode. I was really looking forward to watching this season, and I don't like a couple of the changes. I think you hit on the major things. I don't like the points resetting. That's one of the bigger things for me. Not crazy about the obstacles seeming to be a little bit easier, and the course overall shorter. A step away from kind of the theme of it being a beast, right? All the obstacle names now are like more mechanical and things. It's as goofy as it is, and kind of, it could be a little cheesy at times the way everything was named. The only ones that kind of retained that animalistic nature are the ones that were already there. So I don't know. I thought that took away from it a little bit. Overall, I'd give it like a 6, maybe a 7. It's weak for Ultimate Beastmaster for me, and I'm hoping it gets better, and I have faith it will be.
Yeah, we grade on a curve, It's like we hold it up to previous seasons and everything like that. And in that sense, I give it a 7. It's good. It's just not great yet, but there's still a lot to see. I don't know if I'm going to be sick of this format by episode 5. I don't know if I'm going to love it even more come the semifinals. There's still a lot to be said. And I think the one key element to the way they have this format is the hosts are going to matter a whole lot more. So we really have to see what these hosts are going to give to the show.
Yeah, and we need some exciting competitors to watch too. I feel like that may have been lacking a little bit. I didn't mind the competitors, but no one really drew me in a whole lot this episode. We didn't have our Kyle Soderman yet.
Yeah, or the French brothers, that had this just harrowing story. Like, there was a lot from last season. I think about it. Remember that guy from like China that was like super like fit and everything, that always wore glasses. Like, there was a lot of memorable competitors. First episode, who knows? We have to wait and see. But yeah, a lot of like, I would say there's a lot of good stories on this episode, but not a super memorable one. Got to wait and see if we get those next episode.
All right. By the time you're listening to this, ANW Junior will have premiered because it is airing on October 13th.
Oh, didn't know that.
Yeah, so make sure you check that out and let us know what you think. So if you have some opinions, if you don't, it doesn't really matter if you spoil the episode. We're not going to be following that quite as close as we normally would, but we will be checking it out and giving our opinions on it at some point as well. But be interested to know what you think.
I'm looking forward to watching it. Once again, just warning y'all, it's not made for me or, for any adults here. So it's like, I have to give my thoughts of like on a curve, It's like, well, would this be good if I was watching with my nephew or something like that, That said, I'm very enthusiastic for it. It has a potential to be really, really big if they hit the right audience. So I'm really excited to see what they can do with it.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe I'll get my kid to watch it, my 12-year-old.
That's what I was about to say, man. I gotta, like, you don't have to, but I would love to hear your daughter's thoughts because she is that age range that they're looking for, right? Is she into the show, like A&W proper, or does she not care for it? She's like, dad does that, blah.
Basically, yeah, it's a dad thing. She'll watch a little bit. She was very excited. The one time didn't have to twist her arm or try to, get her to watch the show. She really wanted to see your run, so she watched up until your run on that episode.
I can imagine her disappointment. So
not at all. No, she thought it was awesome. She couldn't believe you were on TV.
That's cool, man.
It's Magic TV land, man.
Yeah.
Before we wrap it up, I want to say a quick thank you, Andrew Ninja Warrior, for the shout out on their last 2 podcasts. That's very much appreciated. I love their series. I hope you'll check out their podcast. They're not doing like show reviews the way we do. They do their own thing. Very entertaining. They're both very funny and interesting. So yeah, check it out. Andrew Ninja Warrior. So that is it for this week. Thank you so much for listening. Please make sure to stop by iTunes. Give us a rating and review. We love to hear what you think of the show. We always take your suggestions and I'd like to know what you think of the show. So you can reach out to me at rich@ninjapodcast.com. I am at Ninja Podcast on both Instagram and Twitter. And Bijan, how can they reach you?
Yeah, hit me up at Twitter and Instagram at Bijan151. That is Bijan 151.
All right. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a fantastic week.
Peace, love, and deuces, y'all. And a very special shout out to my future husband and wife. Mwah.